There was a character in the movie Office Space who was obsessed with a red Swingline stapler. You might remember it. And that one detail made a minor character in the movie really, really memorable. Maybe even some kind of icon for some of us nerds. We're going to apply that exact principle that they used in the movie to your episodes. I'll tell you why, and I'll give you a drill to practice with too. Now, this process is like moving your content from low res, like really blurry and abstract, and to high res, which is clear and concrete. You probably want to have a show or your content to be memorable. People remember or even quote the specifics. Those specifics also make you more believable and easier to understand, according to neuropsychology. So let's get into the science of this, because it explains why so many business podcasts end up sounding about the same. And this problem will be really easy for you to spot, or easier in business and sort of corporate shows like that, because businesses like to use safe words. And that's because they don't want to alienate potential customers. It's safer that way. And that's why you're going to hear words like synergize or efficiency, optimization, that kind of thing. And we hear this, of course, with generated AI. Likes to use a lot of the same words and phrasing. That's why you get all of the people talking about how to recognize AI. And what happens is all these shows, they end up sounding about the same. And it's the overuse of these phrases and words that make people recognize them and then make fun of them. So that's why it happens in the human brain, neuroscience. There's a concept called dual coding theory developed by Alan Pavio. This theory states that our brains have two distinct processing systems. One of them is for verbal information, which is words, and one is for visual information, which is images. When you use an abstract word like engagement, you only trigger the verbal system and the brain processes the text. And that's about it. That's where it ends. But when you use a concrete word or a phrase, in this case, like a hot take on blue sky instead of engagement, you trigger both systems. The brain hears that thing and it simultaneously calls up an image of a loaded comment on Blue Sky or any social media platform that the listener knows. And that vastly improves their memory retention. They'll recall that much better. Now, this is why dual coding is used in traditional classrooms and instructional design to help students learn. Now, here's an example of an abstract and a concrete hook. I'll discuss solutions to your workflow to achieve better efficiency. I'll show you the Stream Deck settings that let you add sound effects faster, so you can finish your edits in one take. This leads to another concept known as concreteness fading. Over time, our memory fades, but the concrete details, the things like that red swing line in Office Space, survive the fade much longer than abstract concepts like a stapler. If they just used stapler in that movie, you wouldn't remember it 30 or 40 years later. So if you want your episode to be remembered next week, you need to give the brain a handle to just kind of grab onto there, like the swing line. And that handle is a concrete noun. And I'll put links for all of the science about this in the description. So let's get into the performance side of things. In improv, specifics make your scene more believable, more memorable, more visual, and sometimes even funny. If I'm in a scene and I say to my scene partner, "Pass me the sauce," this audience, they hear it, they understand it, that it's sauce, but they don't really care. It's just a thing. And they might have to guess what the sauce is because improv uses miming instead of props. But if I instead say, "Pass me the béarnaise sauce," the one in the cow-shaped gravy boat, all of a sudden the world is kind of blown out. You see the gravy boat that is cow-shaped. You're like, "Oh, béarnaise sauce. I had that before. It's kind of yellow with green flakes." Builds out the world, builds out the scene, and makes it a lot more memorable. You have a lot more tools to grab onto that item and remember it. And you might get curious and wonder, like, why is béarnaise sauce in a gravy boat? Like, would that even work if you poured it out? Those are all tools that are going to help you remember. And if you're delivering an audio-only podcast, these sort of details are so much more important because you don't have a video camera to actually show people these things. So you are going to have to explain everything using descriptive language to help people envision it in their brain. And that's also going to help your show become more memorable. So how do you actually do this without rewriting your entire script? You can use a drill that I'm going to call zoom in and focus. You can do this with your existing scripts or your transcripts. The goal is to find people, measurements, or objects that are vague, and then you're just kind of zooming in on them until they're easily seen or understood. So here's an example. Let's say your script says, we improve our clients' efficiency. Now that's like a really, what is the low res thing that I said? It isn't conjuring anything. It's just kind of blurry and abstract. When we apply this method, this thing to it, we're asking questions like, who is the client, or how much time are they saving, or what do they do with it, or what do you do? So the new version of that and your rewrite would be something like, we helped Linda implement a one-take podcast recording, and she saved 3 hours every week so she can walk her dog Susan more often. So yeah, it gets a little bit longer, but you're not going to do that for everything. You're just going to do it for key phrases. So you added the who's Linda, how, one-take recordings, a specific measure in there, which was the 3 hours, and like a visual outcome that people can really kind of imagine, which is walking her dog. So you moved from an abstract concept to a concrete concept. Again, you don't need to add this many details to your sentences, but just so you get the idea. Okay, so there are two ways to practice this. The first one is quite easy. It's just the edit. So you're going to go through your script, go through your notes, pick out all of those, like the business word kind of things, the abstract words, highlight them, and then fill them in. Figure out what kind of like level of blowout do you want to use for these things. If you want to highlight a lot of the words or just a few to add details in a few spots. So it's really easy. You're going through manually through your script, just editing it. So level 2 is live zoom in. This is one where you're going to just add a note, like a note that says add details. So this is where you're going to add it on the fly when you're recording, or if you're live streaming or that kind of thing. It's going to be done without any notes. You're just going to do it in your head. So add all those spots where you want to add the details live on the spot and get your practice that way. So if you want to get really fast at this, it will help you a lot for like interviews or when you can't script your answers. You can use a randomizer app to practice, like a word randomizer. This is what improvisers do to practice improv. Oh, another way this will help you is if you really banter with your co-host. So there are apps like Impromuse or Andy Smith that will give you random suggestions, and I'll put the links in the description. What you're going to do is get a random prompt from an app like this and challenge yourself to come up with 3 specific details in a row that are based on a random prompt. So this is going to train your brain to reach for that red stapler idea instead of just a stapler or office supplies. And if you want these exercises in a written format, subscribe to the newsletter at stereoforest.com and you'll get them right in your inbox. Specificity builds trust and it's memorable too. So let me know in the comments about some of the details you added in your script, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.